Hi, my name is Morse Caoagas Flores, and I am the coordinator of the OHCHR Indigenous Fellowship Programme. Today, I am going to give you an overview of this fellowship program, and most importantly, to encourage you to apply to our next call for application. Now, in terms of the content of my presentation, I am going to first discuss the modalities of this fellowship program. Second, to give you a glimpse of what is the content of the fellowship program. Third, what's the methodology that we use in the program. Fourth, which is very important, the selection process and the application process. And finally, to also share to you a bit of the impact of the program to those who have gone through the program for the past years. The Indigenous Fellowship Program is possibly one of the most comprehensive training programs that was established by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in the context of the first international decade of the world indigenous peoples. So this is from 1995 to 2004. Now take note of this. It's the first international decade, and the program was a part of the activities that was listed within the international decade. But more specifically, in fact, the Indigenous Fellowship Program was created through a GA resolution. Now, when the program was established in 1997, it was basically offered in English, and we used to have 5 fellows per year. That was 22 years ago. Today, OHCHR is now offering this program in 4 languages. So it has been expanded from English to now we have Spanish, Russian, and French. So as I had mentioned earlier on, the program is based in Geneva, and it used to be 6 months, but now since its expansion into 4 languages, the duration of the program has been shortened into 1 month. However, there are different elements in the program when it comes to its modality and also in its duration. So the Spanish language component, which was established in 2000, is a program that targets candidates from Latin America mainly for the Spanish-speaking world. And this is a program that is organized in cooperation with our partner university, which is DOST University, that is based in Bilbao, Spain. The program lasts approximately about 3 months because the fellows, they go in Bilbao, at the University of DOST for 2 months for a preparatory training course, which is very, very important. And then afterwards, they come to Geneva. The French linguistic component was created in 2002. And it targets indigenous communities in the French-speaking world in Africa, Canada, and in the French-speaking territories of France, for example. Its offices territories in the Pacific Islands or in the Americas, like French Guiana. In the past, we used to have also a preparatory training course in collaboration with French-speaking universities like University of Bourgogne in Dijon. But since then, it's now a couple of years now that this preparatory training course for the French-speaking has stopped, and we are actively currently looking for partner universities where we can have the preparatory course as well for the French-speaking. Now, finally, the Russian language component started in 2005, and we do this in cooperation with our office in Moscow and also with our partner university, that is the People's Friendship University of Russia. And at the same time, with the Russian Association of Indigenous Peoples of the North, RIPON in short, which is, I would say, the most important and the biggest indigenous organization in Russia. And the program lasts for about 2 months. So the fellows, they go to the Friendship University of Russia for 1 month, and then afterwards they come to Geneva to join the other fellows from the different linguistic group. Now, in terms of its content and methodology, the fellowship program provides an overview of Indigenous fellows, the whole range of the UN human rights systems and mechanism. That would include, for example, the organs and the bodies of the UN, but more specifically, the work, the activities, and the mandate of OHCHR. And then as we go along, the fellowship program also introduces the fellows on the international human rights instruments in general. So treaties, conventions, declarations, and those that are most specific to Indigenous peoples, the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP, or the ILO Convention 169 on Indigenous and Tribal Peoples. Now, in addition to those instruments, the fellows also get to know the specific mechanisms on Indigenous issues. So you have the Permanent Forum, the Expert Mechanism on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and the UN Voluntary Fund for Indigenous Peoples. Now, in terms of methodology, we employ both theoretical and practical methodology in the program. Practical in the sense that the fellows, they go through exercises, they have assignments, there are group works, they have individual research, independent projects, they have study visits, plus they also receive a whole range of presentations, briefing sessions, bilateral meeting with independent experts, experts that are coming from OHCHR, but most importantly, and on top of all this thematic issues that they get to learn, they also have the opportunity to learn how the other UN agencies are dealing with Indigenous peoples. So for example, the fellows then move from OHCHR to the ILO, to UNDP, to WIPO, UNESCO, UNICEF, UNITAR, plus several international NGOs that are based in Geneva that accompanies human rights defenders in using the different UN human rights mechanisms. And we have several of them in Geneva. On an annual basis, we have about 60 experts who provide their knowledge, share their knowledge and expertise to our fellows. Now, in terms of the entitlements that the fellows receive once they are selected. So first, they are provided with a return ticket from their country to Geneva and back to their country. They receive a daily or a monthly stipend that covers their basic needs while in the program. So that includes accommodation, food, and transport. We also provide the basic health insurance of the fellow for the whole duration of the program. Now, take note, two things that the program doesn't cover. First, it's the visa fee, but normally fellows, they receive free visas when they come to the program. But we have had cases in the past that some fellows were asked to pay visas. And then the other one is the travel insurance. The travel insurance is under the care of the fellow or the organization or the community that is supporting the fellow. Now, in terms of the application requirement, the most important requirement is that first, you as a candidate, you need to be an Indigenous person. A non-Indigenous person will not be taken into consideration even if this person is working closely with Indigenous communities or organizations. Second, age is not a limitation to the program. So we had fellows who are 19 years old and 65 years old, and that is fine. Formal education is not also a requirement because we know that Indigenous people in parts of the world have limited access to formal education. Fourth, you as a candidate should be willing to train your own people or your own organization upon return from the fellowship program. And then finally, and very, very important, is that if you are applying to the program, make sure that you're applying in the correct linguistic component. And that if you apply for that specific linguistic component, that you have a good working knowledge of that component. So my advice to you, apply in the language that you are most comfortable with. Okay? Now, how do you send your application? Very simple. First, you go and visit the OHCHR Indigenous Fellowship Programme webpage. There is an online application form. You fill that up. There are two parts of the application form. One is filled up by the candidate, you, the individual, and the second one is your organization or your community that is supporting you. Now, what you do, you scan the document, put it as a one document, and then send it by email. To where? To fellowship@ohchr.org. Now, to ensure that we receive your application, you can also send it to us by post. And you can find the address of the program online as well in our webpage. Now, in terms of the selection process, and then what happened is that we review all your documents. And then once we're done with the review, we do a pre-selection of the best candidates. Normally, we have about 20 to 30 pre-selected candidates. And then we get in touch with them. And take note of this, we only get in touch with our pre-selected candidates, because on an annual basis, we receive over 2,000 applications. So take note, this program is a very competitive program. So you have to take it seriously. Now, in terms of the pre-selected candidates, once we inform them, the next stage is the preliminary interview. So the preliminary interview is about, I would say, 20 to 30 minutes interview. And during the interview, we ask basically questions based on the experience of the fellows, their motivation, for example. We clarify certain issues or information in their application. We also call the organization that is supporting them. So make sure that when you send a supporting letter, that letter is really coming from your organization or the person that is leading the organization. And then afterwards, once we interviewed all the pre-selected candidates, we shorten the list. So we have a short list, about 15 candidates per linguistic group. And then these 15 candidates, they go again for the second round of interviews, and this is the final interview. And during the final interview, this is where we ask more important questions about the prior knowledge of the candidate about the UN human rights mechanism, whether they have any experience in already engaging with the UN human rights mechanism, for example. We ask about specific situations in their own communities, why it's important that they come and participate in the program. But most importantly, we normally ask, how would they use the knowledge and the skills that they had gained from the program when they go back home? So again, it's not just the motivation, but the future plans of the candidate that we take seriously. Now, in terms of the different elements when it comes to the linguistic group, for the Russian and the Spanish speaking program, we conduct the selection process in collaboration with our partner universities. Now, in terms of impact, I can tell you that, as I have mentioned since the beginning, the Indigenous Fellowship Program, I don't think there's any other program in the whole UN system that has the same breadth in terms of modalities, in terms of content, the duration, in terms of participation, and in terms of its impact not only to the fellows who go to the program, but to the organization that supports the fellows, the network that this fellow belongs to. And we have seen that in many ways. So, for example, we have had former fellows who have become the most active in using the different UN human rights mechanism. But I think one of the most important impact really of the program is the fact that this is a program that really builds capacities of indigenous peoples in engaging the UN human rights mechanism. And we know that training and capacity building is one of the most important ways of raising awareness on indigenous issues. Now, we recently have a general evaluation of the fellowship program conducted by an external evaluator. And he was just sharing its recent findings on the Indigenous Fellowship Program. And she said that there is a very high, very strong consensus that the Indigenous Fellowship Program is giving an impact, not only to the indigenous person who come to the program, but to the network that this fellow are linked with. So that's it on the Indigenous Fellowship Program. If you have any question, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. You can send an email to, I would repeat again, fellowship@ohchr.org. And as a final word, I look forward to receiving your application for the next call of application. Thank you very much.